All right, the 2026 FIFA World Cup continues, and there are some couple of interesting games that we need to take a close look at as the game comes on. I mean, 2018 champions, the French team with Kylian Mbappe will be entering into the second game, and they're going to be facing Iraq. We're going to be seeing Senegal playing against Norway, Argentina against Jordan, and Argentina playing against Austria rather, and of course Algeria playing against Jordan. Let's begin with the French setup against Iraq. The French team had a very good result against their fellow colony that they colonized, that was Senegal, in the first game when they won by 3-1. Kylian Mbappe coming with a brace, and of course Bradley Bakola scoring the other goal. Even though Ibrahim Mbaye scored a consolation for the Senegalese team, that was good enough to ensure that Coach Didier Deschamps' team had the 3 points plus of 2 goals because they scored 3 and then conceded once. They entered into game against less fancied Iraq. Iraq, I think they gave Norway, especially in the first half, a very good game. I mean, we saw the likes of Zaid Al-Amri, the likes of Ayman Hussein, the likes of Aka Al-Hashim. I mean, they were very good in the first half. They gave the Norwegian side a good test in the first half. But it was quite unfortunate. Erling Haaland came with the brace. And of course, it was that situation that put the nail in the coffin on the Iraqi team. But today against France, I think it's going to be a difficult game for the Iraqi team. I don't see how they're going to be France because the French team is probably gathering the momentum. Initially, until 2022, we used to have defending champions going out of the competition. That's how we had it in 2002 when the French team entered. They failed to make it, even though when Brazil won in 2002, they went beyond the group stages in 2006 in Germany. But after Germany 2006, the subsequent winners, most of them failed beyond the group stages. And that was what happened with Italy after winning 2006. They failed to go beyond the 2010 in South Africa. Spain, after winning 2010, failed to go beyond the group stages in 2014 in Brazil. And of course, that same fate happened to Germany when they were champions in 2014, failing to go beyond the group stages in 2018. But of course, when the French team won in 2018, they played another final in the last 4 years, which was Qatar 22, unfortunately losing against Argentina. In the second game against Iraq, I think the French team will be licking their lips and then thinking that, I mean, this is probably going to be an opponent that they can easily run right with, especially with the key stars that they have in the likes of Kylian Mbappe, who delivered very good game. I mean, Michael Olise, who is having his debut World Cup, delivering brilliant performances for the French team. And of course, Ousmane Dembele was quiet within the game against Senegal. Unfortunately, he was substituted. I mean, we're expecting the likes of Desiree Doué and of course, Aurelien Tchouameni deep in midfield. So I think the French team has a very good team with a very good backline. I mean, they can decide to play Jules Koundé at the backline. I mean, Theo Hernandez, William Saliba, and probably Dio Upamecano. Of course, there is a certain Ibrahim Konate who's just left Liverpool, joining Real Madrid. So I am going straight win for the French team in that game against Iraq. I see the French team beating Iraq. Senegal will be playing a tough game, and of course, there are issues with regards to the Senegalese team. I mean, the players getting out to buy their own foods, even though the contracts of the coaches issues were on board, but the coach just clarified issue during yesterday's pre-match conference that he signed his contract. And of course, there are pockets of other issues with the Senegalese team that, which is quite unpleasant, especially when they lost in the first game against France and then going to a second group game against Norway, which is going to be another KG encounter because the Norwegian team has good stars. I mean, team having the likes of Erling Haaland, Alexander Charlotte, Antonio Nusa, I mean, deep in midfield, Sander Berge, Frederick Orsens, of Benfica, and of course the captain of the Arsenal team, Martin Odegaard. So it probably promised to be a very, very tough encounter for the Senegalese team. And the Senegalese team have won last 3 games without a win. They drew against Saudi Arabia in the friendly. They lost against United States of America. And in the first game of the World Cup, they lost by 3-1 against the French team. And it was quite a difficult one for the Senegalese setup in that game against France. I mean, you saw that there were some couple of pockets of spaces that Kylian Mbappe and Michael Olise were exploiting. And this is where I think the Norwegian team, Coach Salva Solbakken, is going to see how he's going to exploit those spaces, especially at the back line of the Senegalese team, where they have the likes of Moussa Niakat and Khalidou Koulibaly. On the right, I'm expecting to see Crepin Diatta and probably El Hadji Malik Diouf of West Ham. I mean, deep in midfield, Lamine Camara, Papi Alassane Gueye, and Drissa Gana Gueye. I think Ismail Assar was quite wasteful in that game, in the first game against the France team. So I felt that he needed to be substituted earlier. But later on, the coach left him to take the piece of the game for a long time before he substituted. And young boy Ibrahim Mbappe, the teenager, came and had the consolation for the French team. With Nicholas Jackson will be leading the line, of course, Sadio Mane. But I prefer having Iliman Ndiaye today being in the place of Ismail Assar. So Ismail Assar should be on the bench. But mind you, the Norwegian team have a very good backline. The likes of Christoph Aja, Leo Ostigard, and Julian Reisen of Borussia Dortmund. So they have a good side, and it probably promised to be a very, very tough game. It's this is one of the games which is very difficult to predict. For me, I see the likeliest results happening to be draw based on the quality of those two teams and the players that they have in. But if there's going to be a win, I tip Senegal to get that win against Norway in the second group encounter, which is going to be coming on today. And of course, another African team in the shape of Algeria will be entering into that game against Jordan, which is also quite another big one. Jordan, they are debutants in this World Cup. Their first game against Austria, they lost by 3-1. The likes of Al Olwan, the likes of Al Zawahiri, they failed to beat the Austrian team. The Austrian team had a very good squad. They are coached by one of the finest ideas in European football in the shape of Ralf Rangnick, and they have some couple of brilliant talents. So that was the reason why you can talk about the fact that they were able to defeat the Jordan team. Algeria, to me, I think they decided to play with the Argentines, which was quite unfortunate. That was the reason why they lost by 3-0. Instead of them to respect the Argentines, sit deep and make sure they take them by the counters, they decided to open up play. Even though Lionel Messi scored, the goal was flagged off. The Algerians also scored. Faris Chaibi of Frankfurt scored. The goal was also flagged off. So they thought they can play against the Argentines. But it was quite unfortunate for the Algerians. They had to suffer a 3-0 scoreline. And of course, the little big man, Lionel Messi, coming with a hat-trick for the Argentine team. This was the reason why the Algerian team lost by 3-1. But I think against Jordan, they should be able to at least secure 3 points in that game, because especially when Riyad Mahrez is likely to be part of the setup today in that game, having the likes of Faris Chaibi, and then of course the young boy Ibrahim Maza of Bayer Leverkusen will be in the thick of affairs deep in midfield. Just behind him will be Hisham Boudawi at the back line. The likes of Asia Mandi, having Ryan Aitunuri of Manchester City, and then having Borussia Dortmund's Rami Ben Sabai with Josim Belgali at the right back. So I think the Algerian team should be good to go. I think Jordan should be able to be the team that Algeria must account for. Argentina will be playing against Austria, another KG encounter. Both teams won by 3 in their first game. Argentina won by 3-0, and of course, Austria also won by 3-1. And of course, Lionel Messi, the little big man, showed his mettle, showed his quality. And the Argentine teams to be moving forward. They have the quality, they have the coach, they have the chemistry, they have the consistency. And majority of the players who were there in the last time out when they won the World Cup in Qatar 22 are still there. Just few additions that have been part of this setup. You can talk about the likes of Nico Paz, the likes of Giuliano Simeone, the son of Diego Simeone, coach of Atletico Madrid. Just few of them that you can talk about. So the Argentine team is still intact, and I believe they're going to trouble the Austrians. The Austria, probably you can say they had a low-profile opponent in the first game against Jordan. Probably that could be the reason why they won by 3-1. So the real test is going to be against Argentina. How can they match the likes of Alexis McAllister, Rodrigo de Paul, Enzo Fernandez deep in midfield, and of course, we saw how the game started when Lautaro Martinez was leading the line for the Argentines. Nico Paz can be there, and of course, Julian Alvarez, another, especially with the back line, also the likes of Christian Romero, also the goalkeeper Emi Martinez, Nahuel Molina, Nicolas Tagliafico. The Argentine team has a lot of quality. The top chemistry and the consistency has always been there. And I see Argentina as one of the hot favorites for this World Cup, and probably, for me, it will not surprise me if they beat Austria. Even though Austria have some couple of talents. Konrad Leitner of Bayern Munich. Kani Chukwuemeka, the English international who just switched his nationality. Anatovic, former striker of West Ham, at a point with Inter Milan, is going to be leading the line. Marcel Sabitzer, formerly of RB Leipzig, formerly of Bayern Munich, now with Borussia Dortmund. I mean, even though Christian Baumgartner got injured, and that was the reason why he's not part of this team, but I think that still they are still keeping up the shape despite missing Christian Baumgartner. The likes of Philip Mwene also going to be around. But for me, I think with the Austrian team matching up the Argentine is quite difficult. For I might go probably a 2-0 win for Argentina. So this brought us to the end of those games that we previewing for today in the 2026 World Cup on the podcast channel with our. This has been our preview of those games. Thank you.